Greetings historians, welcome to Lore of the Dragon. There is a theory many have discussed in the past, that being the one stating Skylanders and the Legend of Spyro canonically are tied. You might have seen this theory going around, heard it discussed, but I thought I'd actually delve into how it could be possible. I will say that canonically they are most likely different universes, and in fact that would make this entire video null and void. However, I thought it'd be a nice thought experiment, and given this theory is somewhat prevalent, I thought it would warrant discussion. For those unfamiliar with this theory, I'll give you a general idea of what it entails. After the end of Dawn of the Dragon, we see the world shattered and put back together. This leaves many islands floating about, tied together, or just floating above a misty layer of clouds. Some time later, eons in fact, this becomes what is known as the Skylands. The Skylands themselves are said to be an endless expanse of floating islands, created by a species known as the Ancients. As you can probably tell by the description of the Skylands, this theory has a hole in it. If it was actually Spyro pulling the world back together that created the floating islands and thus the Skylands, then the claim of the Ancients creating the Skylands is false, and the planet itself was pulled back together. This would mean that generally there is still a limit to how large the Skylands could have been, not at all near unlimited. Now, this could have been expanded by the Ancients using what is called mind magic, but then you could run into the same issue. Did Spyro or the Ancients lead to this theoretical future and create the Skylands? Well, for the sake of looking into this theory, I'll be setting a rule for this. We are not allowed to change the fact of the Skylands creation or the end of Dawn of the Dragon. This means we just can't decanonize things. Everything must be adjusted to accommodate this theoretical timeline. With that out of our way, let's delve into this. We begin after the world was shattered. Seemingly random floating bits of debris are about. Some tethered to larger land masses. All species are making a recovery from the war Malefor waged. Cinder and Spyro are lost, and it doesn't exactly matter whether or not they survived in this case. That's up to you personally in this theory, but it has no relevance here. Now, at this point, for the theory to begin, we need to figure out who the Ancients are in this. Where did they come from? How did they fit into the world of the Legend of Spyro? Well, there isn't exactly indication of their existence prior to Skylands, obviously. Maybe they were hidden in another part of the planet, outside of what is considered to be the Dragon Realms. Another theory might say that they came from another world, as they did possess this ability due to a technology known as a Rift Engine. The lore behind the Rift Engine is that they were created by the Ancients, a technology which allowed them to explore different worlds, and I believe it's quoted to be dimensions. However, at some point using this technology released the darkness upon the Skylands. Apparently, the device that did this was called a Dark Rift Engine, which, while perhaps a bit on the nose, is an engine with immense power, enough to open said dimension to the darkness. With a few alternate dimensions being mentioned in Skylanders, and the darkness perhaps coming from an alternate world like this one, maybe the Ancients were from another dimension from the Legend of Spyro one. Either way, they arrive, and we reach a point where the Skylands can be created either by circumstance, or again, by the Ancients using mind magic. Now, in this case, creation can refer to a few things. Traditionally, I would say it's implied to be the creation of the Skylands without a prior world being there. Another theory might say they created the idea of the Skylands, but based it off of something, used something to build it off of. From here, the species of the Legend of Spyro world would adapt to this new land. The elements would be more thoroughly understood, giving rise to elements like tech and so on. That explains the Skylands themselves, but there are other aspects I've yet to talk about, and that's about recurring characters. Through the years following the creation of the Skylands, you'd see the rise of the Archeans, the darkness invading and spreading. But after all that, the Skylanders would be formed, and hailing from a far-flung place would be none other than Spyro, and later would come Cinder. We've run into a new hurdle. How do we explain returning characters? In this timeline, we've covered thousands of years, tens of thousands even. Spyro, for all his power in the Legend of Spyro, might not have been able to stand up to the power of time, despite wielding it. and there's no indication to say that he created the time crystal again to preserve himself for tens of thousands of years. Now, there are theories that cover this. One big one being the rebirth theory, stating that Spyro is reborn in a sort of cycle, like a phoenix. Cinder would also be tied to that given their connection throughout Dawn of the Dragon, something perhaps to do with that magical chain. This, however, doesn't explain those like Sparks or even Malefor coming back. Sparks is a strange case, and there isn't really much to say on him. His return would be nothing short of a miracle in this timeline. Malefor perhaps was released into the Skylands as a spirit after the Skylands were created, and the planet itself was tossed by the wayside to make room for it. Perhaps, maybe even that crystal that he got trapped in at the end of Dawn of the Dragon was shattered in the process. Perhaps then Cinder and Spyro are brought back due to something said in Dawn of the Dragon. That being, Spyro was created to bring balance what Malefor threw into chaos, according to Ignitus anyhow. This strange force that created Spyro could in theory do it again, and bring back Cinder since Malefor indeed returned. For lore reasons, that is as far as this gets, using what we have to explain how it could vaguely connect. There are still holes, such as Sparks, but that as of now can't be explained by this theory. I did have the thought that the ancients could be the cause, or maybe just time itself eventually led to the creation of another version of this character, just over the course of thousands of years. Their characteristics would be coincidentally lining up, but in reality, they'd be a completely different person, just with similar traits, looks, and names to those who came before. Maybe it could happen, I've heard of that being a scientific probability somewhere, but in any case, that's as far as this goes. If you have any thoughts you'd like to add, let me know in the comments below. As always, a big thank you to my Patreons, Abyssal Blue, Aether Muse, ConquerFan91, Eric Manuel, Jabby, Kiasu Shin, Lacko312, Lozzy Nightmare Spyro, and Shaggy. I'll see you all the next time we talk. Stay safe, historians.